Today I'm going to tell you the 5 reasons why your violin sound is terrible.
That's terrible.
And some of them may be obvious, but some of them may not be so obvious, so stick around to the end of the video to get these 5 fixes. Hi, my name is Eric and I'm a violinist dedicated to helping you become a better violinist. Let's talk about the 5 fixes that is contributing to your bad violin sound. If you're a beginner, trying to find a good sound can be daunting, can be difficult, can be frustrating. First and foremost, you want to check if your equipment is in order, meaning your violin is having new strings on it, nice fresh set of strings from G to the E string. Your violin bow is nicely rehaired. It's completely rosined up. A lot of times when people purchase violin outfits online, usually the bow hair is not really rosin. So whatever rosin that comes with the violin outfit, you have to rosin the bow accordingly. And typically you want to rosin your bow. If you have a circular rosin, you want to utilize the rosin in you want to use the rosin in a circular motion. What that'll do is make the violin rosin last longer. So once you have your equipment in order, everything looks good, your violin is in tune, making sure that all the strings are tuned with the tuner, then we go to the next reason as to why your violin sound isn't sounding so good. And that is because of your bow. Now let's talk about the bow a little bit. So the bow, this is what a bow looks like. This is a violin bow. And this is what the frog is right over here. Some basic elements. This is your thumb leather. The hair, of course, is right over here. So let's talk about the bow. The bow is an essential part of violin playing. It helps you create that beautiful sound. So the bow has a bunch of things going for it. You have to have the bow weight, which means the bow is kind of leaning into the string. Now what we want to do is want to have more bow weight. We also want to make sure that the bow angle is appropriate. Sometimes I see a lot of students go this way where the stick is facing the violin player's head, or too much the opposite way, and that's a result of the wrist, which is what I'm doing right here. The wrist is moving the bow angle back and forth. Another reason is the bow angle this way, right? So when I do a down bow, you can see how my violin bow is gliding across. Partially we have this ponticello sound right over here. This is a result of the string tension being really tight near the bridge and really loose closer to the fingerboard. So if you play your violin out here, you can see that the violin sound is quite different compared to very icy, slippery type of sound. So your job is to try to be dead center in the middle between the between the fingerboard and the bridge as a beginner violinist. So when I do a down bow, it's quite clear. Very, very important that we get that. And I know a lot of students struggle with bow holds as well. So having a solidified bow hold will help you get to a good violin sound. Now, I want to offer you 15% off one of my courses, Bow Hold Masterclass, which I'll leave a link in the description below. And this is for anyone who is learning violin, who is getting started. You can use my promo code ViolinStart to get 15% off that course. I'm going to leave a link down in the description below for you to take a look at. Next up is our playing position. So you may have noticed that our violins, you see a lot of famous violinists playing up here or even over here. Now, you never see a classical violinist, I want to be very clear here, a classical violinist, not a fiddler, but a classical violinist, they never play down here, very rarely. They play up here. And the reason for that is because when you have good posture, when your violin is up, you are able to again, maintain that contact with the bow and the string. So if my bow is down, I'm applying bow weight, and my violin is down, and I do a down bow, then my bow will slip. So ideally when I want my violin up and my bow down, I am planting the bow onto the string, and I'm having clear sounds. And of course, I am really trying to focus on where my violin is. Is it too far away? Is it too close this way? I've seen people do the extreme on both ways. Ideally, when you are working or when you're sitting down, like for me, for instance, I'm sitting down while I'm doing this tutorial for you, my violin scroll, which is this part of the violin right over here, is over my left knee. And I want to have some kind of balance between the two legs. So I don't want my legs close together. I want my legs and my knees to be kind of shoulder width apart, and then my violin is over my left knee. So that being said, that's going to give you a little bit easier access to making sure your fingers are in the right place. Your bow is going to have straight bows when you're doing down bows and off bows. It's going to be a lot cleaner for you to get that good sound. Now, if you're enjoying this video, again, my name is Eric. I teach violin on YouTube. It would mean the world to me if you could just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications, and hit the like button. And if you liked this video so far, make sure you share with another person so that way they can utilize the benefits of these tips for better violin playing. But on to the next tip, which is finger placement. Now, finger placement is very important in violin playing because if you don't have the proper finger placement, then the violin is going to sound something like this. It's going to sound like a bunch of harmonics. What we're trying to accomplish with the finger placement is having a fingertip. Now, I've talked a lot about this on the channel, but if you're new to us, to this community, I talk about the difference between fingertips and finger pads. Now, we don't want any flat fingers because it's going to really affect our intonation. Our violins are designed so that way we are able to kind of utilize a lot of fingertips. Now, if you're doing something more intense like a Bach partita sonata or doing like a violin concerto and you have to do more acrobatics, that's a different conversation. But right now, our job is to place firmly on the fingerboard. We don't want gentle fingers because gentle fingers will reduce the articulation of our left hand. So if I'm playing, my fingers, you can hear that my fingers are quite firm. They're not like jello, like if I'm pushing down like this. Now, I want my fingers to be nice and firm so that way I get a really solid contact between the finger, the string, and down to the fingerboard. Now, because I'm applying correct pressure, I'm able to create a good sound. But that is always going back to my second tip about bow hold and bow distribution and making sure that everything is working on the bow. First, you have to make sure you have the grip of the string, and then once you have that, then you apply the fingertips. So make sure that you're always kind of going that way. Because all in all, when you have good fingertip placement, you're going to have better intonation and you're going to have more resonance for your violin. So you're going to notice something like this. Let's say I put the third finger on the E string. Those notes are designed on the violin to ring because we have open strings, overtones, resonance, all that stuff. That's a little bit more complicated conversation. But you're trying, for basic terms, what you're trying to do is trying to get some resonance out of your instrument, like third finger on A, third finger on E. And this is all in first position. And then lastly is while you're playing all these fingers and on your violin, you are trying to relax. Now, easier said than done, of course, because if you're relaxing, then you might be too relaxed and then you're gonna end up like those harmonic squeaky sounds. But if you're tense, then you're gonna sound something like that, and we don't want any of that type of sound. So there will be tension in violin playing. I had a professor long ago that told me that releasing 100% tension is close to impossible. However, our job is to learn how to release tension. So how do we do that? So humans are not designed to have wooden sound boxes on our shoulder. Now, the way we help with that is through a shoulder rest, through a chin rest to help us prevent injuries. So when we are playing, our job is to relax our shoulders, right? So when your violin is on your shoulder, try to like roll them back a little bit so that way you maintain a good posture. You know, your head is nice and relaxed, pretty heavy. And another exercise is to see if there's any tension in your neck. And you can talk to your violin teacher about this as well, in your own violin lessons, about understanding the natural weight of the head on the chin rest. You never want to squeeze, and you can see based on my neck, it's quite tense when I move my head too much. Some people take the chin rest literally and they really just plant that chin on the chin rest, but I prefer to call like a chin rest slash jaw rest. Can we just like sign a petition that is mostly like a jaw rest? Let's be honest, people. If we're playing the violin like this, the chin rest is like barely on the chin rest. I mean, it maybe sound better, but jaw rest, I like to tell my students that think of it as a jaw rest, and they immediately find more comfort in this part of the violin posture conversation. Now, we talked about shoulder, we talked about the head. Now, the neck, again, we talked about the neck, making sure that it's not too tense. We want, going back to our violin playing position, that our violin is over our knee if we're in sitting position. Now, my violin, where does my focal point go? Where does my head go, right? So if I'm looking at music, I'm looking as if I'm talking to you directly, right? But if I'm trying to look at my fingers, I just move my head a little bit. I don't move my head too much, because a lot of students say that they see double, but the moment you start seeing the string, that's where it gets really confusing. So if your eyes are looking at the fingers themselves, then you get a better chance of actually trying to achieve the firmness of your fingers. So those are my tips for not having a terrible sound. Now, if you're really struggling on violin playing, leave a comment down below. What are some of your struggles in the practice room? And if you're looking for more information about violin playing, I encourage you to subscribe, stay connected to the community, and I'm going to leave some videos right over here for you to take a look at.